So a few months back, I created a paint pour vase, and I was reading the comments. You guys loved it. I read all your comments, so make sure you leave me a comment. And so when I was coming up with fall projects, I thought, what if we recreated that on another Dollar Tree item? So when I was shopping at Dollar Tree, I came across this huge tray. This is probably the biggest tray that I've ever seen at Dollar Tree. But I grabbed this gray tray and I decided to do a paint pour on it. So in order to do a paint pour, what you're gonna do is just grab a collection of paints, and you're going to start by pouring white into your first cup. Then you're just going to add in additional paints. There's really no rhyme or reason to it, but you just want to switch off sporadically so you get a variety of paints. Now I decided, since this was a big tray and I kind of had a small cup, that I was going to do 2 cups worth of this. Then you want to put some kind of container that you can start pouring on. So I just grabbed this bowl that I had in my stash. It's from Dollar Tree, and I put it in the center of the tray. Now here is the fun part. I started to pour the paint on there, and then as I'm doing it, I kind of swiggle my hands and I swirl them around. This is just gonna add a little bit more texture to your paint pour and a little bit more interest. Once you have all your paint on there, you can remove that center item that you used, a cup or whatever. Make sure you have something underneath that can take all of this paint, because there's going to be a lot of excess paint. Then you're simply going to pick up your tray, move it around until you get that desired look that you're wanting, and you cover every inch of the tray. So I kind of had to move it around, cover the handles. You want to get all of the excess paint off of there. You don't want too much paint on there. Once it's, looking the way you want it to look, set it and let it dry overnight. It's probably not going to dry within a day, so just let it dry overnight. Now, since this was a tray that I was going to be using, I wanted to seal it. So I came in with my water-based sealer, did 1 coat on it. And here's a look at how the tray turned out. When I got to Dollar Tree, I found these adorable little acorns, so I ended up grabbing 2 of them. So I'm gonna paint the bases of them with that nomadic desert color. I wanted them to be very neutral, very matte. And of course, I couldn't get through a Dollar Tree video without using some nautical rope. So that's what we're gonna be using to wrap the top portion. So all you're gonna do is put some hot glue on the back and start wrapping around the nautical rope. If you can, add your glue to the back. That's just gonna make the whole final project look better. I'm gonna keep wrapping it until I've covered the entire piece all the way up to the little stem. Now again, these are great to put out with plants or books or other groupings that you have. So just put them out with your already existing decor. I've really been into purchasing real eucalyptus lately, and my favorite place to grab it is at Trader Joe's. I love eucalyptus because it lasts so long, and whenever it dries out, it still looks really nice. Well, one of the things I've been seeing lately in high-end stores are colorful eucalyptus. So I wanted to show you how you could create the same look for less. So I grabbed the eucalyptus that had been in my home for probably 2 to 3 weeks, and I took it outside. I also grabbed like a little bit lighter than a navy color spray paint, and I'm gonna spray one side of the eucalyptus, and then I'm gonna flip it around. Now when you spray it, you wanna spray from the top so that it looks like the paint is coming down from the top, if that makes sense. And I'll just flip it over maybe 2 or 3 times and continue to add spray paint. And here's a look at how I displayed it in my home. So if you guys have been eyeing this wall art that I have over here, I'm gonna show you how to make that next. So I started by grabbing 3 white jars that I had. You can thrift these, you can use ones you already have. I used a pitcher and also like 2 little jars, so you probably already have something like this on hand. Next, you're going to need some sort of macrame cord. I will link to the one that I love down in the description box. It works awesome. So just go click the link down below and it'll take you straight to the one I use. So to create a macrame for each one of my pieces, I'm going to pull off 6 long pieces of macrame. Once you have your 6 strands, you're gonna start by tying a knot at the base. Then you can place that big knot on the bottom of your jar, and then you're gonna go around the edge and take 2 of the strands from 2 of the knots and tie those together, creating 3 more knots. And you'll repeat this again. You're gonna take 2 of the strands, tie them together, creating another knot. Now this should allow you enough knots to hold your vase in place. If you have a smaller container, you may not have to do it as far up. I know I usually try to tie the knots until I get to the top of the container. Next, I'm just going to gather those pieces together, and then I will hang it on a stick that I cut down from my backyard. You can use any stick, anything you have. If you don't want to use a stick, you could use like a 1x2 board. This is literally a stick from my backyard, and I'm going to tie it to that stick. Now I'll repeat those steps, putting the macrame together for all 3 of my containers, and I'll add those to my stick. You also kind of want to step back, so I kind of tied them loosely and figured out where I wanted the placement until I tied them really secure, so if I needed to move something. Next, I'll just trim off any excess pieces on the knot. I'm going to start by adding in some neutral florals, but if you wanted to add in fall colors or blues and greens or any colors you love, you could totally do that. Dollar Tree also has these really fun pumpkins on a wood stick. I'm gonna place those in there as well. If any of them are too long, just trim the stick down to where you need it to be. You guys, I love the way this turned out. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this, but this is probably my favorite project in this video. So when I was strolling through Dollar Tree, I came across these wood frames with wood beads. I almost lost my mind. I was so excited that Dollar Tree had these. So I picked up 3 of them and knew that I had to do a fall project with these. Now they just seemed really neutral, so I want to kind of stick with that neutral tone. So I took the backs off of them. Then I was looking around Dollar Tree for some craft paper. I couldn't find it, but I did find this wrapping paper, and on the back it was plain, so I just grabbed this. And I'm going to trace around the craft paper, cut it out, and I'm gonna hot glue it to the base of these frames. Next, I pulled out my Cricut Joy, which if you guys have been watching any of my videos, it's my favorite Cricut. I can easily create something on my phone and then print it on my Cricut Joy. So I went on my phone and I just grabbed 3 images of pumpkins. I measured the frames and determined I didn't want any of them to be longer than 4 inches. I resized all of the pumpkins to be around 4 inches. I sent them to my printer and cut them out on a white smart vinyl.
The night's got a fever to the moon and back, playing loud in the speakers. You and me, can I marry you right away? Oh yeah. Listen to the midnight radio.
Next, I'm just gonna pull those Cricut decals off and I'll place them onto the craft paper.
We can drive through the night.
Then I'll just simply put the backings of the frames back on.
Don't wanna wait all my life. Can't remain, no delay. Gotta let go. We can drive through the night. Sing along to the midnight.
And you can see how cute these look in a grouping of 3 on my wall.
My life can't remain, no delay. Gotta let go.
So next up, we're gonna be creating a rope tray. So you wanna grab a clear tray from Dollar Tree. You're also gonna grab some nautical rope. Now, Dollar Tree does sell nautical rope, but I prefer to pick it up off of Amazon. It's just cheaper and you get a ton and you can use it for multiple projects. So I'll link to the specific one I use in the description box. So to create this rope tray, you're just gonna start in the center, hot gluing it. And you're going to hot glue as you keep tightly wrapping the rope around. Now you wanna make sure that there's no gap so you don't see the clear tray underneath, and you want to add just a small bead of glue. You don't want your bead to pop up and you see it outside of your tray.
How did you stop loving me? How is that even possible?
Now, once you get to the edge, you want to go around completely so that you cover up all of your tray again. Once it's completely covered up, you're going to take that excess, cut it off, and then you can glue it to the back.
Oh, now, are you saying that to change your mind?
Now for this rope tray, I wanted to try painting on it, so I decided to create some circles along the edge. So what I did to start with is I just kind of grabbed some painter's tape and I was eyeballing my spacing around the edge to see how many circles I would need to create. Then I grabbed some cardboard and I just cut out a circle template. This wasn't super precise, I just tried to make it as even as possible. Then I made sure that that cardboard template was gonna work all around the edge.
Lose my mind again. How did you stop?
Next, I'm going to be using those fall colors that I told you about earlier that I picked up, and I'm just going to randomly select a color to place around on these larger circles.
How could we move on? Move on. Why you wanna let me go now? Are you saying that to change your mind? For love or pity, let me know now.
Now, whenever you're painting on fabric or rope, you want to make sure you use quite a bit of paint because that fabric and rope are really going to suck up those paints. So make sure you use quite a bit of paint.
Are you saying that to change your mind? For love or pity, let me know now. 'Cause your love made me go.
Now let that completely dry, and then I decided I wanted to go back in and make some smaller circles. I created a new template that I could use that I could place on top of my existing circles.
For love or pity, let me know.
And then I'm just going to come back in with contrasting fall colors and paint those on the existing circles.
Why you wanna let me go now? Are you saying that to change your mind? For love or pity, let me know.
Once you're done, let that dry, and here's a look at my fall rope tray. I love whenever I'm shopping at Dollar Tree and I come across an item and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gonna make a perfect DIY. That's what happened when I saw these 3 domes. I actually picked up 6 of them so I could use them again for Christmas DIYs, so be on the lookout for those. But if you see these, grab them. I wanted to show you a fun DIY that you could do for fall, but honestly it would work pretty much any time of the year. So I'm gonna start by disassembling the bases from the plastic tops. I'm gonna spray the bottom halves with an ivory color. Now, if you're wondering where to get spray paint, my favorite brand is Rust-Oleum, and I typically buy it at Walmart. One of my tips when it comes to spray paint is pay attention to the finish that you're buying, not just the color. Do you want it to have a flat, matte appearance, or do you want it to be more glossy? So think about that before you purchase the spray paint. With this one, I went with a more matte finish. So next, I'm gonna grab some stems that I had on hand. Now, you can grab anything you want. I grabbed these eucalyptus. I'll link them for you down in the description box. And I'm simply going to place them in my dome so that they fit kind of perfectly. And then I'm gonna clip them at the bottom. Now, these little bases are really cool because they have this little center thing that's perfect for a stem. So they stuck right inside. I didn't have to glue them or anything. And then I just put the tops on. And I repeated this for the other 2 domes. Now this is a super simple DIY, but how elegant does this look sitting out on your shelf or in a display? First up, we're gonna be creating a wreath. I grabbed this set of 3 wreath forms from Dollar Tree. Now, if you're unable to find it, there's something similar that Walmart sells in like their floral section, but if you can grab it at Dollar Tree, it's less expensive. We're gonna be using the larger wreath form, and I'm just gonna start by using my wire cutters to cut it apart. Next, I'm going to add in some wood beads. These are actually larger wood beads than I've used before, and I'm gonna link this new set that I picked up down in the description box. Now, the set I got actually came with quite a few beads. I didn't use but maybe a 1/4 of the beads for this particular project. I'm just gonna start by stringing all of the beads on. Once you're finished adding in all your wood beads, you're going to add some hot glue to the end of the bead and just hold them together to close it back up. Now, if you want it to be super strong, you could always add in E6000 for that extra bonded hold. With the beads, you could definitely leave them natural, but I decided I wanted to stain them, and I wanted a really dark stain. So I grabbed one of my espresso stains that I had in my collection. I'm gonna use a foam brush to wipe it onto the beads, and then I'll come back in with a paper towel and just pull off any excess stain. Whenever you pull off the excess stain, that's when the wood grain is gonna start showing through, and you're gonna get that dimension in your wood piece. So I really like to make sure I take off any excess stain. If you're not a fan of the dark stain, you could always go lighter and change it up depending on your preference.
Let's forget about a curfew, 'cause all that is stuck in my head. It's me and you, both speeding, my heart is racing, but I'm not sure I wanna face it, 'cause it only does this with you. Our bodies meet, I can feel the tension, move us into the next dimension. Let's just let our bodies be true.
Once your stain has a chance to dry, you're gonna grab some Dollar Tree stems. I was really excited to find these natural looking stems at my Dollar Tree, so I picked up a couple of them, and I'm gonna be using 2 sets for the base. Anytime you're creating a wreath, you want to think about what you're going to be using as your base, and then you can always add your filler elements on top of it. So these 2 like wood type florals are going to be my base. So I'm going to lay them down on either side of my wreath, hot gluing them in place. I also grabbed some Dollar Tree leaves and pumpkins and wanted to add those in the center. These are those filler pieces that are going to like cover up where you had to glue things. I'm gonna add in these florals and the pumpkins. Now from here, you're gonna take a step back, see what you need to add. I wanted to add it in a few more leaves, and then I also decided to grab some of these acorns that I picked up this fall from Dollar Tree. I'm gonna place those in as well.
Girl, put your faith in me, even though we just met. Let's
I'll cut off the excess at the bottom. Once you're happy with the overall appearance, that's all you have to do. And I really love how this wreath turned out. You guys are gonna have to let me know what you think of it. You guys know we couldn't get through this video without recreating a high-end find. And the find were these candles that I found off a Crate and Barrel. And I love this ombre look to them with the wood underneath. So I went to my thrift store trying to find something similar to this wood piece because I knew Dollar Tree wasn't going to have like a wood candle. I found these really inexpensive little wood candles. Honestly, you could grab any wood item from Dollar Tree and I'll show you how to get this ombre look. So I started by placing tape around the center portion of each of my candles. I wanted them to be opposite of each other. So I wanted the paint to be on the top half of one and the paint to be on the bottom half of the other. Now to get the majority of my paint on there, I needed to tape off one whole section of each of the candles. So I grabbed some craft paper and taped that around so that when I sprayed, that section would not get any paint on it. And then I took the candles outside and did 2 coats of spray paint on each of them. Next, I'm going to remove the tape once everything has dried. To get the ombre look, I honestly just held the candle holder in my hand and then I sprayed lightly along the edge, and that gave me that gradient look. You really don't have to add a lot of paint here. Honestly, less is more, and it doesn't take much, and then you have that ombre effect. And here's how they look styled together in my office. So Dollar Tree sells these foam pumpkins. They come in white and orange. The one I had was orange, and last year I painted it more of this cream color, but we're gonna be doing something completely different with it this year. So I'm gonna take the stem off the top. Next, I grabbed some yarn. Dollar Tree sells yarn as well. I'm gonna start with this kind of burgundy color yarn. I'm gonna hot glue my yarn doubled over to the back. And then I'm gonna simply just start wrapping it around my pumpkin. When I get to the end of my yarn, I will hot glue it to the back, and then I'm gonna keep doing this until I cover my entire pumpkin with yarn. Now I needed to figure out a stem for this pumpkin. So I had an older pumpkin that I wasn't using, so I pulled the stem off of that. You could also get a stick outside. Dollar Tree sells some of like those small sticks. You could use that as well. And I'm just gonna hot glue that to the top. Now it was looking a little unfinished, so I grabbed a leaf from one of my Dollar Tree stems and I'll hot glue that on there as well. And here's a look at my yarn pumpkin.